Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Shall we start?
Yes, sir. Sir, can you wait for a minute, sir?
Okay, I will wait. Okay, I will start. The next part of the fifth module, buckling, will start from today's class. If I take two or three extra classes, two classes, if I take extra, then it will be easy for me to complete. Buckling of columns. It will give the. Have you seen column? You have seen bars, right? Bar you have seen beams. Similarly, a column is a structural member, a long slender structural member, which is subjected to compression loading. When I say column, you can see you can take the example of a college only. It has beams and columns, and these columns are always subjected to compression loading only. Because a column that should be long, it should have a sufficient length when compared to its other dimension. Its length is very long, and it is subjected to compression loading. Let me give the definition. You will come to know. A column, a long vertical slender slender member subjected to compression loading. Compression loading or compression is called as column. example, long slender member subjected to compressive loading P of length L is a column. Okay, this is one end fixed and this end fixed, other end free, fixed free column. We'll discuss this later. But a long slender member, it should be long and slender. Okay, subjected to compression loading is called as a column. Whereas when we talk about strut, for example, you might have seen trusses like this, right? Roof trusses. Have you seen trusses? Uh, for example, any farmhouse or any houses made up of sheets or any in your industries will come across these type of structures. Might have been seen. It will run throughout the length like that. So, in that, these other than vertical members, these members which are inclined, there is this is called a strut, and this is called a strut. This is called a tie. Okay, let me give you the definition of a strut: a long, slender member other than other than vertical position. It is not in vertical position, it is other than vertical position, connected by pin support, loaded axially, is called a strut. Generally, what is the difference between a strut and a column? Even both are meant for meant for carrying only axial loads. That is, there can be eccentric load also, but both are meant for carrying the axial loads. But in most of the cases, column will be straight and vertical. It will be a long, slender member. It is erected straight. Whereas when you take about strut, in most of the cases, the strut won't be long vertical. It can be at some inclined position, say some angle theta like this, with reference to some axis. It is not in the straight position. It is also meant, since this is a bar like this, since strut is not, this entire thing is called as truss. Whatever this one, two, three you are seeing, these three members form a truss. When I say bar, a bar can be subjected to a tensile loading like this, or a compressive loading, or a compressive loading like this. There is only two cases, either tension or compression. Bar is not meant for withstanding bending loads. Similarly, since these trusses are long slender member other than vertical position, connected by pin support, they are not connected by this fixed support, they are connected by pin support. Even though they are connected by fixed support, they are welded, we assume that they are connected by pin support. By assuming as pin support, the results what we get are most probably it is equivalent to the weld structure. So by assuming it as a pin support, the result will not deviate from the welded support. Okay, and then loaded axially is called as static. So this is loaded axially. When I apply a load like this, I will resolve this force in this is mostly along the length direction. I will resolve the force along the length like this. I will apply a load like this. I will resolve the load like this P. There can be horizontal components also, but we will assume that it is subjected only along the length. When I talk about truss, there will be this Fx and Fy both components come into the picture. But that's what. If I load like this, there will be both Fx and Fy. But time being, you understand that for your understanding purpose, strut is a long slender, is a slender member which is in not in vertical position, it is some inclined position, and it is connected by pin joints. It is also meant for withstanding axial loads. When I say this strut or a column, strut or column, it is a two force member. Why two force member? In the sense, when I take a strut like this, I take a strut like this, it can be subjected to two forces, P, P. N two force member. Okay. And for equilibrium, summation of forces should be equal to 0. Okay. Next, what is buckling? Have you heard of buckling? Have you seen the column fail? Have you seen anywhere due to earthquake or due to some wind loads, or have you seen column buckling, like buckling in the sense what happens is, you might have been seen long slender members, that is columns or any poles or something like that. They will not fail due to excessive load. They will fail due to geometric instability. I mean to say they will not fail due to excessive load. They will fail due to their instability. In the sense, they will fail due to excessive deformation. So this, when I say buckling, it is due to the excessive deformation in the lateral direction. It is not due to the load conduction. Whereas when we spoke about beams, or when we spoke about bars, when we spoke about torsion, we can see when we spoke about torsion, it is strength criteria and rigidity criteria, either deformation or stiffness. But when I say buckling, it is the geometric instability. That is, we are talking about deformation, excessive lateral deformation. So if the column bulges, if the column buckles, so that is called as buckling. So when I say buckling, let me give the definition, you come to know. Timely you cannot understand. When I illustrate this, you'll come to know. So buckling is the instability. When I load the column due to compressive load long slender member, it will not fail due to excessive load. It will fail due to excessive deformation. That is called as buckling. That excessive deformation or bending in the lateral direction is called as buckling. And the load which is responsible for buckling is called as buckling load or crippling load or critical load. We'll discuss later. Okay. Now let us consider three cases. First, stable equilibrium. Second, stage 2, neutral equilibrium. Stage 3, unstable equilibrium. Okay. I'll consider a column. Long, it is to be vertical. There is no uh, geometric variation. It is long, slender. I'll connect this end by pin support. I will give the pin support and other things, and boundary condition will discuss later. And I will also fix this end by pin support like this. This is pin support. I will apply a load P. A load P. Okay. Now see, this condition, I have applied a load P, and this load P is less than the critical load or buckling load. So there is something called as critical load or buckling load. So unless and until the load P reaches this critical load or buckling load, the column will not buckle. Buckle in the sense it will not deform excessively like this. There is lateral bending will not happen. So when this is the condition when the load is less than critical load. For example, assume that critical load is 500 kilonewton. My load is well beyond this below this 500 kilonewton. Let's say 250 kilonewton. My load is below that is 250 kilonewton. It is similar to as saying like this. I have a ball here. I will displace this ball. I will displace this ball, and this ball will take the motion like this and come back to original position. This is called a stable equilibrium. When the load is less than the critical load, this column will not buckle. Will not buckle. Let me give this. Let us consider. Let us consider a column subjected to load P or P. Let us give a small lateral force. This small lateral force, in a sense, nobody will come and push your column. due to the what the eccentricity, the load always will not be axial. The load will shift somewhere from the axial position. This will lead to some lateral loads like this, lateral loads like this. Okay, let us give a small lateral force to the column, but the column regains its original position back. Okay, this is what happens when the load is less than critical load. It will not buckle. Column will not buckle. Column will not buckle. Now let us consider condition. Second condition, neutral equilibrium. I will apply a load P. I will apply a load P. Okay, and the same when the column is given, and this is something like this, and this neutral equilibrium is having a roller and a flat road like this. So wherever I push, it will go and take the new position like this. It will take the new position like this. Okay, so when the column is given a small lateral push, the column will not regain its shape back. It remains same in the deflector. So what happens is, if I give a small push, say assume like this, it will remains in the same position until the load is removed. Until the load is removed. Let me give the definition. Come to know. So this is called as neutral equilibrium. When the column is given a small lateral push, the column will not regain its shape back. It remains in the deflected or bended deflected position called as neutral equilibrium. For this condition, my load P is equal to critical load PCR. So if my column buckles, so buckles in the sense excessive lateral deformation like this is called as some lateral deformation. This is called as buckling. So what happens in the due to excessive lateral deformation, the column may not be able to withstand any further load. The column will fail. Okay, the entire building may collapse, and then it may not. It looks ugly. Aesthetic looks won't be there. So there are so many disadvantages. Well, generally, it is in geometric instability. So even this load, what with this load P is PCR. This is well beyond the yield punch. That is well beyond the elastic load. So even though load is within the elastic load, this column will buckle. That is, this is called as buckling. Okay. Now unstable equilibrium. I have applied a load P. This load is greater than the critical load. This load is greater than the buckling load. The column will bend excessively like this. The column will bend excessively like this. successively like this, okay. This lateral deformation when P greater than PCR, okay, is called as buckling. Let me give the definition. You'll come to know. If the load is increased beyond stage 2, that is neutral equilibrium, this stage 2, the column will collapse. If the load is increased beyond stage 2, the column will collapse. That is P greater than PCR, critical load, failure of buckling. This is called as failure due to buckling. Failure due to. Now, let me give the definition for buckling. So there are three conditions a column will come across. One is the load less than its maximum withstanding capability. So when the load is less than its withstanding capability, so as soon as you remove the load, or if you give a small deflection also, even applying the load, it will go back and will come back to the original position. They're like elastic limit. When you give the load which is equal to critical buckling load of the column, so what happens is the column will remain in the same position until the load is there. But after removing the load, it will come back to original position. But when the load is greater than the critical load, even after removing that buckling load, it will deform plastically and it will not come back to its original position. This is called as when the load is greater than the critical load. This load which is greater than the critical load, this load which is greater than the neutral equilibrium load, that is second stage, is called as your buckling load. Let me give the definition and come to know. Buckling load or crippling load or critical load. The load up to which the column remains in neutral equilibrium, beyond which the column fails, is called as buckling load, and the phenomenon is called as buckling. So the load up to which the column remains in neutral equilibrium, that is up to which the column is in neutral equilibrium. When the load exceeds this neutral equilibrium, that load is called as buckling load, which leads to excessive lateral deformation like this. This is why I can say deflection and deformation. Deflection, you can say lateral deflection. This lateral deflection, which is not recoverable, it will not come back to its original position. This is called as your buckling load, and this phenomena which is happening is called as buckling. Okay, have you understood this? Have you understood this?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
so this you should remember. In stable equilibrium, even if you give small displacement, it will come back to original position. In neutral equilibrium, like wherever you roll a ball, it will take a new position. In this condition is similar to like this. I forgot to write. This condition is like this. This condition is having like this. A small displacement will make it fall. This is called as unstable equilibrium. So these are three conditions. Okay. Next. So sign convention for buckling. We have seen the sign convention for bending. We have seen the sign convention for torsion, tension, everything. So sign convention for buckling. If I assume this thin line, dotted line as the column, if this column bends either like this or like this is my positive buckling, positive sign convention, positive buckling, positive. If the same column bends either like this or like this or like this, it is called as negative buckling. Either like this, first you play a load like this. If it bend like this, it is a positive buckling. It can have two chances. It can either buckle in this way or in this way. Then both the cases it's positive. And apply a load like this. If it will buckle like this or buckle like this, then it's negative buckling. Okay. Now, see. Let me give an example. Hold on. Are you able to see me? Assume this scale what I am taking as the column. The scale what I am taking as the column. So when I bend this column, how is the bending happening? Bending is happening how? Can you see how it is deflecting? It is deflecting in this way. In this way. So let me write moment of inertia. The columns will buckle along the least moment of inertia. I'll explain this. Let us consider the column. Assume this is a scale. Okay. I'm applying a load P, and this is fixed with the foundation. This is also fixed at upper, but I'm assuming this is load. And this is the cross section. This is B, this is D. If I write the cross section, this is B, this is D. This is my x-x axis. This is my y-y axis. We know that Ixx is equal to BD cube by 12. Iyy is equal to BB cube by 12. Now, In this case, let us assume D as 10, B as 20. Okay, D as 10 and B as 20. Okay, 10 minutes remaining. DBQ button. Okay. Now, now, now look at me. If I take the column like this, if I apply a load, there is buckling load like this, in which direction is bending? It is bending in this direction. Your thumb is in which direction? Your thumb is in this direction. Thumb is in this direction. But the scale is not bending in this fashion, isn't it? Scale, we cannot bend the scale in this direction. Either we can, if I buckle, if I bend my four fingers in this direction, if I bend my four finger in this direction, my thumb points in this direction. My thumb points in this direction. But we cannot buckle in this direction. Can we buckle in this direction? I cannot bend my scale. I can bend my scale only along this direction. I cannot bend the scale in this direction. Like this, I cannot buckle in this direction. So it means to say that buckling happens along the least moment of inertia. It means to say that in this direction, there is, if I take this as y, if this as x, buckling is happening along the y-axis. That you should know. Any long slender members, the buckling will happen along the least moment of inertia. Okay, this is what in this case BD cube by 12. Since D is lesser, okay, this is I. If I take this as B, this is I by y. Let me write this as okay. Give a moment. Therefore, this has to be BD cube by 12. Buckling happening along the y-axis. This will be 20. This will be 10. So along the least resistance, buckling will happen. So IYY, DB cube by 12, DB cube by 12, D is 20, B is 20, 10 the whole cube. Obviously, IXX is greater than IYY. So buckling will happen along our this y-axis. Buckling, therefore, buckling happens in this case happens along y-axis. Where if I say this is x-axis, this is y-axis, buckling is happening along this axis. Okay, that you should know. Is this concept clear? There are few concepts which has to be understood in this chapter. And then shall I continue for another half an hour? Shall I continue for another half an hour? Another half an hour, shall I continue?
Okay, sir.
Okay. Now, radius of gyration. Radius of gyration. I'll send you the one more link very soon. Within 10 minutes, I'll send you. Now, when I say radius of gyration, I will explain with an example. What is the moment of inertia? Generally, moment of inertia for area moment of inertia, I is equal to AR square, AY square, whatever. So, what happens is, for example, if for this cross section, if I want the area moment of inertia about x-axis, then it is I is equal to BD cube by 12, which is as good as saying AR square. BD cube by 12 should be equal to AR square. Okay. Now, I will assume radius of gyration. I will assume an area which is squeezed, this area which is equal to this L into whatever, L into B into D or whatever, is squeezed and kept at a distance K. Okay, this area is squeezed and kept at a distance K. So when I take this multiply, when I say when I say I is equal to a square, this area into k square will give the same moment of inertia as that of the area of cross section. This distance k is called as radius of gyration. Okay. So if I keep this entire area squeezed and keep at some reference axis such as some distance k, this should give the same moment of inertia bd cube by 12 or db cube by 12. So what is the distance is called as the radius of gyration k, or k is, let me give k is the distance at which the entire area is squeezed and kept such that there is no change in moment of inertia. So if I squeeze that area, entire area and keep it from some certain distance so that I get the same moment of inertia as that of the cross section, that distance is called as your radius of gyration. It is given by I is equal to area A into distance k, ak square, or k is equal to root I by a. Okay. Next, we'll talk about some mathematical concepts. We'll stop at this point. Give me a moment. I'll send you one more link. Okay. I'll stop at this point. Within 5 minutes, I'll send you one more link. Kindly join. Okay. We'll discuss on the 10-15 regarding the initial concept. Next onwards, we'll have 4 derivations. We'll discuss that.